Not to be outdone, BBC Breakfast paid its own somewhat baffling tribute to Gormley's project with its own plinth. Make sense of this.
Congratulations, you certainly earned your place on the breakfast plinth. It's all yours.
Thank you.
July! Woohoo! And the summer is traditionally a sunshiny time of the year, but not on TV, where things all got a bit dark.
Torchwood, the Doctor Who spin-off that's a bit like the Welsh X-Men, drew millions of viewers to BBC One with a scary tale of alien invasion and child slaughter with a subtle homosexual subtext.
Aye, gay boy. She says you're taking it up your ass.
It starred end-of-the-pier immortal John Barrowman as Captain Jack Harkness.
Harkness is, of course, a man of mystery. You can't tell what he's thinking just by looking at his face, no matter how hard Barrowman tries.
The plot revolved around a menacing alien presence known as the 456, which turned up demanding 10% of the world's children.
We want 10% of the children of this world.
It, have 20% if you like.
When it didn't get what it wanted, the 456 did a Holly Steele and threw a fit resembling a norovirus outbreak in an airport smoker's lounge. It all came to a tragic end as Harkness was forced to sacrifice his own grandson in scenes which left the hapless Kiddywink looking like a 4-year-old at his first rave.
Inside Nature's Giants, that was disgusting, bloody horrible. Basically, it was like what you'd see if you hit a really big mammal with a bus. They'd like cut open an elephant and I'd be like, no way, it's got all this stuff inside it. It was amazing. It's like, I thought animals were just full of meat like they are in the shops, but actually there's like stringy bits and balloon bits and it's mental. The inside of an elephant is mental. All the scientists were doing it, kept looking at like bits of gut and that and going on about how it proved the theory of evolution and that there is no God, you know. Of course you don't think there's a God if you just killed an elephant. They were basically hacking up zoo animals and saying there is no God. Oh, the fucking police have got their eyes on them.
August, and real-life Super Mario Land simulator Total Wipeout returned to the screens and became a success despite containing no intellectual nourishment whatsoever.
It's incredible, really. They've taken wordless slapstick and managed to dumb it down to a level livestock would consider demeaning.
Despite the hilarity, some of the games look downright vicious.
It's a bit like waterboarding, in that it's got water in it and I'm bored. In September, very much the golden month, everyone's favourite psycho magician Derren Brown performed a thrilling life feat by successfully predicting the results of the National Lottery.
Out she comes. That's number 11.
This was a bit cheerier than his original idea of predicting the body count of the next Chinese mining disaster. The footage was poured over again and again on the internet, with people claiming that if you slowed it down and zoomed in, you could see one of his balls shift slightly out of place at the crucial moment. Although, to be fair, that's probably just down to nerves.
And, ladies and gentlemen, my prediction for the lottery numbers this week are 2...
Welcome to the age of unenlightenment as Channel 5 replaces its nightly news programme with a gruesome concoction called Live from Studio 5.
As a public service broadcaster, Channel 5 is required to include a certain amount of news programming in its output, and incredibly, Live from Studio 5 forms part of that. Yes, technically, it's a news programme made by Sky News featuring reports from Sky News reporters. It's also a horrifying vision of our inevitable idiotic future.
Yes, this is the news, as presented by 3 people with the collected brains of a thumb: Kate Walsh, Melinda Messenger and Ian Wright.
Or teeth, tits and balls, as we like to call them. It's a pretty smiley show. Kate Walsh in particular bears her fangs so frequently and fully it's like someone repeatedly waving a flashlight in your face. It's not so much a mouth, more a gateway to the enamel dimension.
Everyman Ian Wright, meanwhile, is there to ask the difficult questions.
You see, you mentioned that you write in the first person. What do you mean by that?
All of which meant that, startlingly, Melinda Messenger was this show's intellectual core.
I don't understand.
What?
A lot.
October is the scariest month of the year.
Welcome to Question Time.
Question Time with Nick Griffin, right? That was really interesting. You know, you might not like his views, but he's got a right to wear them no matter how ugly they are or he is. Just because he wants to establish, like, a fascist Reich, it doesn't mean he can't be part of a democracy. I mean, I learnt shitloads. I mean, before, I just thought the BNP was racist, you know. I didn't know they were homophobic as well. People said he came across as an angry bigot, which isn't fair, because, like, he laughed quite a lot. Well, sort of. Part of his face laughed anyway, you know. The other half just sort of hangs there, staring at you like a frozen owl monster or something. It was a setup from the off, though. The BBC tried to make him look stupid by, like, letting him speak.
I shared a platform with David Jin, who was once a leader of a Ku Klux Klan, always a totally non-violent one, incidentally.
So he was there, which was democratic, but the audience kept jeering at him, which wasn't democratic.
I cannot explain why I used to say those things. I can't tell you. Well,
in the democracy, right, you shut up and listen to whatever the bloke on a podium says. All he was doing, really, was sort of speaking up for the sort of person who doesn't know all the fancy words about politics or doesn't play the Westminster game, you know? You know, just a sort of common or garden person who hates blacks and Pakistanis and Indians and Bengalis and Chinese and Jews and Benders and Lesers and Labour voters and Tory voters and Lib Dem voters and anyone who's on a different mobile phone tariff or looks funny or has this sort of name you don't like the sound of. He's just the voice of the average.
There are many empty, meaningless things in the world, things like popularity or possessions or, I don't know, raising a family with someone you love. But perhaps the most frighteningly meaningless thing in the whole of creation is the ITV2 schedule.
The ITV2 schedule is a masterpiece of nihilistic worthlessness, a monument to cultural death and fetid excrescence that reached a frightening peak this year with an hour-long documentary in which Fern Cotton met Peaches Geldof.
It immediately became apparent this was going to be the most scintillating clash of the intellect since Frost Nixon or Parkinson Emu.
My room. Random. Just kind of typical, I'm 20, I've got loads of clothes.
I have a lot of clothes, yeah.
Loads of books.
Yeah, I have stuff like, I'm really big on sci-fi, so I have like...
You can often glean information about somebody by glancing at their bookshelf, especially if, I don't know, they mention reading the works of the Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard, for instance.
J.G. Ballard, like L. Ron Hubbard stuff.
But it seems when you put Fern in front of a book collection, what she really wants to ask you is this.
Have you kind of colour-coded your books?
Yes.
We then got to see Peaches doing her day job as a sort of correspondent-type thing for an overtly hateful New York Style magazine. Apparently this job largely consists of her walking around New York dressed in some zany garb and patronising absolutely everyone who comes into her field of vision.
I think you look sexy.
Do you?
Yes. Give me a high five on that one. Hell yeah.
Oh, God, what a massive embarrassment. Honestly, you'd have to be a idiot to be impressed by this.
I actually think Peaches is very good at this. She really seems to connect with people.
Anyway, after a while, it became apparent that Fern was starting to get on Peach's tits, largely on account of her habit of standing around grinning like a life-size robot doll that hasn't had its brain chips inserted yet.
Here in what scholars of cinema verite already refer to as the diner scene, we bear witness to the most inane conversation ever captured on camera.
I don't know what to talk about today.
What do you want to talk about? We can talk about anything.
The Large Hadron Collider.
The what?
You know, they've made this thing called the Large Hadron Collider.
Wow, that's...
It's in, like,
quite heavy on
Texas or somewhere where they're trying to create a black hole in space.
I don't know if you caught that because Fern's appetising-looking bowl of sick was arriving, but Peaches just revealed that the Large Hadron Collider is apparently based in Texas or somewhere where they're trying to create a black hole in space. What's interesting is they're both incredibly stupid, but in subtly different ways. One's pretty and thick, and the other one's pretentious and thick.
Right, you want to talk about space?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Well, I've always been really interested in quantum physics. And about theories of, you know, how we came to be and why, which is, I guess, how I got involved in, like, spirituality and stuff in that way, and, like, the religious path that I choose to go down and stuff.
Which is what?
I don't want to talk about it.
Incredibly, at this point, the show was still only halfway through, so there was still plenty more of Fern and Peach's natural on-screen chemistry to enjoy. It was all leading up to a frankly astounding moment where Peaches suddenly revealed she was actually stupider than she already appeared.
I am a Scientologist.
Okay.
I've been a Scientologist for a while now. Yeah. I mean, it's...
Oh no, she's gone again, look. Still, this is a real scoop Fern's got here.
I couldn't believe what Peaches was saying. This was the first time she'd ever publicly admitted to being a follower of the religion of Scientology.
Yeah, I suppose it would come as a surprise if you hadn't picked up on the obvious clues, like the references to L. Ron Hubbard and the talk of being on a spiritual journey. But then this is Fern Cotton we're talking about. She's probably still surprised to wake up in the morning and discover she's got a pair of feet.
The other thing that really shocked me was that you're a Scientologist. I had no idea. Everything else I kind of read about or heard through the grapevine, but that I was not expecting.
I keep, like, stuff like that private because it's, like, something that is, like, a sacred thing in my life and a private thing, so, like, why would I want to broadcast it?
Now, why would ITV2 want to broadcast it? Anyway, having stared deep into the void, it was time for Fern's final summing up.
Hanging out with Peaches has been mad.
No, it hasn't.
I'm not going to lie, I'm a bit exhausted.
No, you're not.
But it was really fun and interesting.
No, it wasn't.
It's been a roller coaster.
No, it hasn't.
You know what? She's having fun. She's making a lot of money out of it. Maybe she is having the last laugh.